Hello everybody and welcome to this playthrough for Pro and Expert Division. The video here is sponsored by Golf Clash and Playdemic, so let's go! This playthrough is for the Vintage Open Tournament and all of the courses is called Vineyard Acres and you can find them on tour number 8, the Mountain Tour. Before I take my first shot, check down in the video description. There you can find direct timestamp for all the holes in this playthrough. You will also be able to find the link to patreon.com/golfclashtommy. There you can book yourself up for training sessions and you can also order some text guide packages. Hole 1. So hole number 1 here, we're gonna play downhill. Downhill 20, yes, 2 and a 0. That gives us 20% downhill. I'm gonna play with a power 3 ball. With crosswind and headwind, and I'm going to try to achieve as much distance as possible, so I'm going to give myself the opportunity to be close to the green for maybe a wedge or for a short iron as worst. Max side spin to the right, 6 bars of top spin as I'm having that on my drive, and I would be using, like, if I would be having more top spin, I would be using that as well and just be going with more curl to the right instead. Now, when we rolled all the way through here to get to the same height at the spin, we're not going to over adjust or under adjust our shot in any form. But let's say we would be coming into the position where our opponent is, which is down into this big hole or whatever we can call it, and then you need to play it uphill. And you're gonna see that when it's time for our opponent to take the shot, that you're gonna see it's massively uphill. So 10% under adjustment for that. So look here now, here you can see it's uphill. So 10% under adjustment for that shot, as it is uphill and the ball is going to be less affected by the wind. One thing as well to add for this one is, let's say we do have a tailwind for a drive, then I would be going for green. I will be choosing a Berserker, maybe one from the Golden Shot or something like that. I will be taking that Berserker, trying to actually go to green. It is an absolute big possibility to do so, so the wind decides so much on what we're gonna do in the tournament. But nonetheless, I believe that hole number 1 is going to be a must eagle in the tournament if you're going to go for the top 3 spots. Sure, you could be okay by missing this one, but as a general hole to go from, I would say we're gonna see more eagles than we're gonna see birdies on hole number 1. Hole number 2, it's a par 3 that we've seen a couple of times in tournaments, and this one is one of the few that hasn't been tweaked in any form, or like maybe in some form, but at least I can find the tweak here. So the thing that we're gonna do is that we're gonna play with our sniper, and we can play with a power 3, power 2, power 1, power 0 ball if we want to. The only thing to have in mind here is, if we do have tailwind, do not play with a power 2 or power 3 ball. Reason being is that we're going to be in between clubs, so therefore we need to stay with a power 1 ball, example a navigator, or we need to go down and play with a marlin, or we maybe play with a basic ball. But a navigator is perfect as it reduces the wind, which has wind resistance too, and will help out to reduce the wind, so we're not gonna be in between clubs, because that's what's gonna happen if we do have straight tailwind and playing with a power 3 ball, for an example. Now I'm aiming straight at the pin, giving myself a little bit of room with the ball guideline, blue ring by the rough. And then from this angle here, I'm going to adjust minimum distance with a 10% over adjustment. And the only thing that I maybe could change here is like to just maybe aim a little bit to the right of the pin. So give myself that room, as even though the wind is very tiny, it's still going to give us a little bit of a push going towards the pin here. Coming in nicely though, but still not really there, so maybe a slight over adjustment to the right side there, gonna be okay. Hole number 3. Hole number 3 is a par 5 where we do have an opportunity to make an albatross. I think the opportunity there is good, but it's only going to be good if we make the drive in a good way. So first and foremost, we're gonna pick the driver that gives us distance, and we're gonna need some curl with a drive as well. So if you do have an extra mile level 6, 7, 8, that's okay. But let's say you have a very low level extra mile, you might gonna have to change to, what can we say as a club, maybe a level 1 apocalypse instead of like an extra mile level 5, if you would be having that combo, for an example. And you're gonna see here now that when we do have headwind, we do need to play with a power 3 ball. Our opponent playing with a power 2 ball gets dangerously close to the water, and that's not something that we do want to do. We do want to bounce over directly, so we can end up having a long iron towards the pin when it's time. Using a kingmaker for 2 reasons: side spin 3, and also the wind resistance 3. Now I'm actually I'm putting my target a little bit too much to the left of the fairway. The reason I'm doing that is that I do want to compensate for a possible great right. But you can see I have a lot of room to the right, so I should be putting myself a ring or 2 more to the right, so I'm not gonna flirt that much with the rough there on the left, because that is something that will happen for some, is that we're gonna get into that rough on the left side there, especially if we don't use enough curl or side spin. But the drive in itself with adjustment 10% downhill, super important. Max side spin to the right, or as much as you can, combined with having 6 bars of top spin. And sure, if you do have a lower level driver like the extra mile level 5 for an example, or 6, you have a 4.5 in top spin instead of 6, and then you go with max top spin there. Let's say you have a straight tailwind on this one. I would consider taking away some bars if you are going to have an extra mile level 8 for an example, or maybe you're having an Apocalypse or a Thor's Hammer in a lower level that gives you more top spin than 4.5, and then just stay using 4 bars of top spin. Still the same with side spin and curl, of course. Second shot here, and second shot we're gonna play it for the rough bump, and we're gonna be in between minimum and medium distance, which is going to be 1.3 rings with this wind. I'm using 1.5 bar top spin, and that is actually a mistake here. And the reason that is a mistake is that even though we don't have a fully developed ball guideline, for this rough bump approach, we do need to make sure that the ball guideline go through the hole. So therefore, we do need to use 2 bars of top spin, because you can see how much uphill this is, and the ball need to fight. And the risk we take going too short here is to drop down into the rough again. So 2 bars of top spin with that type of wind. Make sure that the ball guideline go through the hole, even though you have a club that does not have a fully developed ball guideline. Hole number 4, par 3. And here we're gonna go directly for the pin, and I'm going to make an adjustment using 20% over adjustment instead of the general 10 that I'm suggesting in the text guides and stuff. The reason I'm using 20 is because I'm going to aim straight at the pin, and the only difference from you going directly at the pin and also like with 20% and using 10% is that you will have to, with 10%, over adjust the standard like 1 to 1.5 square to compensate for the push that you're gonna get from the wind while bouncing on the fairway. So I'm going to play with a power 3 ball here. You can see how close I am to the Goliath range here, and that's something that we do really need to think about. That if we do have a tailwind, straight tailwind, then we're gonna play with a long iron, and therefore a power 3 ball could be good because it gives us the opportunity to, it gives us the option to basically choose wherever on the fairway we want to play on. But when we do have crosswind or we do have headwind, we do want to play with a ball that has less power to give ourselves more room on that fairway for a sniper approach and not being that dangerously close that we are now from being in between clubs. Because if we go back to the Goliath, it's going to mess up and it's going to be super tough for us. So we get it super close, and you can play it with 20% over adjustment. You can also play it with a 10% over adjustment. It's all about where you put your target, if you're over adjust or not. Hole number 5, par 5, and here we're gonna play with a power 3 ball. There is only that in my mind. Sure, we could play with a power 4 ball, power 5 ball as well, but I'm not gonna suggest that in a guide. So we're gonna stick with a power 3 ball, and we're going to back up a little bit and use the top spin that we have on our club to bounce under the trees there on the left to make ourselves go as far as possible on the fairway without getting into any obstacle. And you can see here how tough this drive are. We're so close to the rough with our first bounce, second bounce, and then also close to the trees there. So I will be happy with this drive in the end. And something that many players will do is to get into the sand, get into the rough, and going to lose a shot on this hole. So if you can find a way to consistently make an eagle on this one, you're definitely going to gain a shot or a shot on your opponent in the tournament. So now when I'm there, you can see I had a long way towards the top there of the fairway, and the ultimate situation would be for us to be on the top left of the first fairway here to the right. So the thing that I did then is that I'm using a big dog as the second club. That gives me distance, it also gives me topspin, so I can basically choose the approach that I do want now for the second shot. I either have to rely on using overpower to bounce on the fairway to then bounce over towards the green, or I will have to use topspin to bounce on the fairway into the rough to roll out into the green. And I'm going to use the first alternative, I'm going to use overpower. And the reason I'm using overpower is because I feel comfortable with that. If you don't feel comfortable with that, try to stay away from it using the topspin instead. You can see I'm stretching my adjustment out there to just get it correct, aligned when it comes to the rings. And then I'm gonna go max overpower here. Good enough, I'm hitting it perfect with the big dog. I'm gonna bounce, and we're gonna bounce, and we're gonna roll. Coming in a little bit hot, but that's okay. And the only thing I'm focused on, how to secure the eagle. It's like if I drop an albatross, that's just a huge bonus, but not something that I count for. So just gonna focus on getting it onto the green, take the eagle, focus on hole number 6 instead. And once again, I'm going to have to repeat, I think I missed that, but drive 10% downhill. The second shot for hole 5 is nothing. I'm not adding or subtracting anything for hole number 5. Second shot. Hole number 6, par 4, and if I'm not mistaken, we still have one par 4 left. But par 4, and we're gonna go straight forward to the right. And you maybe wonder, like, you have J-Loom, why don't you try to go over the water? The water is a thing that has been changed just recently with a new tweak and update for the Vineyard Acres, is that the water is so much bigger than it was before. We just had a tiny bit of water before and made it, of course, easier to bounce over the water. Now it's going to be a very good bounce that is going to give ourselves to bounce over the water. So I do not suggest any hook shot because it's too risky, in my opinion. 3 bars top spin, 3 bar side spin to the right, and I'm going to play with a power 1 side spin 2 ball, which is a quasar. Gives me the option, especially for the second shot, to put myself away from obstacle like the rough, for an example. Over adjusting the shot 5%, so the adjustment here is max distance with a 5% over adjustment. And we bounce, we get a very dead bounce, but we're getting it up to where we want to. 320 yards is okay, and the closer we are to the top rough, then the easier the shot is going to be. When it comes to going towards the pin, as we're going to have an open shot and don't have to use that much side spin. But you could see I also did the hit shot great, so it kind of like makes sense that I went a little bit shorter than expected. So second shot here, and the second shot here is a tricky one, and now we're gonna aim this one and play this one uphill. We're gonna play it uphill 10%, so we're going to subtract 10% from our adjustment. So, and we are in basically minimum distance, but more as in minimum / medium distance of our club. And you can see here that I'm aiming with max side spin and 3 bars of backspin, but look at the ball guideline. Look how strange that one is acting. So the thing that I do is that I'm aiming 1 square to the right of the pin and just taking my shot with that adjustment, which I'm not happy with because I cannot really rely on the ball guideline here, because it's going to either bounce me right, left, or just center, and hopefully it's going to be good. It gets good, you know, it gets okay, but definitely it's going to be a struggle to find. So let's go to hole number 7, and here I'm going to change to a quarterback. And why is that? You may wonder. The reason I'm choosing a quarterback here is to give myself accuracy, a good accuracy and a good ball guideline, because I do want to aim and try to get myself as close to the rough there as possible to the top. Maximum distance with a 10% over adjustment, super important, as we're going to once again be able to get close to the rough. We do want to adjust with a 10% over adjustment no matter what type of driver we're going to have, because it's going to be that downhill adjustment that we do need to make. But for the second and for the third shot, we're not going to have to do that in any form. So our opponent's going to play with an extra mile, and that's okay. It's like you sometimes don't have option to switch bags, but I would pick the quarterback as a driver here. And you maybe wonder, like, okay, if we do have like that tailwind like we're having now, or maybe we have a straight tailwind, shouldn't we try to go over to the next piece of fairway? I would say no, because the fact is that we're gonna miss more than we're gonna gain. We're gonna miss more than we're gonna make to go over the rough there. And even if we make it over there, we're not gonna have a chance to reach the green anyway. So we're basically just risking something that we're not gonna get any big reward from. So second shot here now, and now I'm actually gonna go, and I'm gonna go as far as possible here. Max top spin, 1 bar side spin, and here you can see the benefit of using maybe a big dog, horizon, the cataclysm, to give ourselves more distance and more top spin than we do have with the sniper. And now I'm adjusting my reins and I'm pulling it up into max distance and using max overpower to get myself as far as possible on the fairway, and also giving myself as open line as possible towards the pin. And having to max overpower a second shot is of course not like anything that I would suggest if it wouldn't be for giving us such a good way to make the eagle from distance there. Let's say we would be playing with a crosswind or with a headwind for this one, then we need to lay up on the left of the fairway. Like if we take the target our opponent's having now and just go way left, we have a fairway spot there that's also going to give us a more of an open line towards the pin. So that is the line that I'm going to use with crosswind or headwind, because the only way we can reach as we did here is with tailwind. So that is something that is very important to have in mind. So now for the third shot, we're once again not gonna add anything, or we're not gonna subtract anything. We're gonna just try to dial in the short iron that we're having. And the thing that I'm going to see to be us doing is that I'm going to be in between medium and maximum distance of my club. And I'm going to use the tip of the ball guideline to be approximately 1 to 1.5 square before the pin. That is to compensate for the fact that we're actually gonna come in pretty hot. That's something that has happened me and many of my opponents before, that we're coming in too hot, and even if we're straight at the hole, we're still gonna bounce off the pin, or we're gonna drop in and out from the hole, etc. So we hit it perfect. We get it to bounce and bounce. Get in the hole for an eagle. So we're gonna go to hole number 8, and I would say just hole number 7 is going to be like 90-95% birdies on that one. So if you do get an eagle on that one, be super happy. But don't get mad if you do get a birdie, because that's going to be the general score for that par 5. Hole number 8, the last par 3, and here we're gonna use backspin. I'm using 6.5, and I would say use 5.5, 6 bars of backspin instead. I'm using too much backspin here. And now, in the end, I'm going to adjust for 10% over adjustment with max numbers. And once I'm dropping down into the sand, you maybe could see what I did there. I did push my target up again. And that is to compensate for the less distance we're gonna get while dropping down to a lower surface. So every time you go from a higher point to a lower point, you're gonna lose distance. And therefore you will have to, when you have done and adjusted your rings or adjusted your shot in however way you do, once you drop down into the sand there, you need to push up your target towards the pin approximately 1 to 1.5 ring. Then you're gonna be accurate and gonna hit the spot that you're aiming for. Our opponent here is going to use a basic ball, and here you can see how much difference a power ball is doing. So if you're going to play this one in tailwind or crosswind, you're gonna pick the sniper and you're gonna pick a power 3 or power 2 ball. If you're gonna have headwind, you need to play with a power 3 ball, and you will have to play with the Guardian, in my opinion. Because the risk of having to overpower the sniper is something that is there, especially if we do have a headwind for our approach shot there. Something to have in mind that we do pick the Guardian for that hole if we can. If we still want to be there playing with the sniper, then we do so. But something to just have in mind at least. Last but not least, we're gonna play hole number 9, actually a par 4. That is, in my opinion, the first time that we have had a par 4 as the final course of a tournament in forever, it seems, like at least a year I would give it. I don't know why the sudden change, but like, it is what it is. And this par 4 is tough, super tough. So I would say the bag need to be focused on backspin from the wood club and below, and I'm going to come back to that later. First, the drive. I'm going to play here with a kingmaker for 2 reasons. Power 3 and also the side spin 3 to the right or to the left, doesn't really matter, but the side spin 3. Aiming with a yellow ring just by the rough there to the right in max distance. I'm using max top spin, which is 6 bars, but also as much side spin to the right as possible. And I would say, if with a tailwind here, I like a more tailwind than we're having now, I would consider using less topspin and then using max a more side spin to the right instead, to get even a better kick into the right, because the further in we are to the right, the less distance we're gonna have for our second shot. So even if you say 382 yards on your drive, you can say 382 yards of your drive but being more to the left. So it's going to be super hard to be able to replicate the approach shot here while adjusting and going for the pin. And here you could see a big reason why I'm putting a power 3 ball in my bag, combined with that I do want to use a club that gives us more distance, Guardian, and also side spin, backspin, Guardian. And sure, our opponent makes this shot very well from that position, but having to overpower an approach shot is something that we only should be able to do if we mess up the drive. So the thing that I'm going to do here is that I'm going to go directly at the green. And now I'm lucky that I'm having a headwind with and also sniper level 10. Just picture yourself with a sniper level 9, level 8, and with tailwind here, we are not going to have enough backspin. Then we're going to have to play on the fairway that slopes massively before. But now I can play there. You can see the ball guideline. You can see what I'm trying to actually do to bounce it up there to kick it back towards the pin. But here is where the Guardian comes in a very, very good way. We can use a lot of backspin even with a lower level Guardian, and also have more distance than the sniper. So Guardian should be the wood club that you're using here, and you should be considering putting the Saturn and Saturn or the Tsunami in your bag as well, due to the backspin. As for, let's say we have a massive tailwind and we want to play very aggressively, we do want to have backspin on a long iron as well, for the same type of approach that we do with the Guardian. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for watching this playthrough for Pro and Expert Division in the Vintage Open Tournament. Something that I want to say is that this is not the win that we're gonna have in the tournament. We don't know that yet. So this is with various type of win, but it's like super important to get a feeling on how we're gonna play in the with the courses. And if you do want to watch just one specific course, like the whole guys are in the same playlist here as in the playthrough, so check them out there as well. For those of you that are playing from the front tee, then you can check out the guides for Rookie Division. You can find them in the video description down below as well. If you like the content and the video, please hit thumbs up before you go. The video is sponsored by Golf Clash and Playdemic. Good luck in the Vintage Open Tournament.